Missing the Pacers offense. We need to send out a search party to find it. They score 90 points in Orlando, lose to the Magic, still can't get back over 500. Much to discuss from another crummy Pacers outing on today's Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, y'all? Happy Thursday and welcome into another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. As always, my name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes, and today, back under 500 go the Pacers. Just the most confusing possible group of results in their last 7 games. They fall to the Magic in Orlando, drop to 5-6 through 11 games. They're almost done with their crazy schedule to start the season. They are not playing well at all, and they just had another putrid offensive night. Maybe one of their worst of the season. Definitely not their absolute worst, but it's becoming a trend, and that's very concerning. 90 points for the Pacers. Much to discuss. Why is this happening? Tyrese Haliburton, once again, another crummy night. Pacer starters in general really off. Is this something to do with the Magic, maybe? What exactly is happening here? What could the Pacers have done differently? What bright spots were there? I actually think this was a good defensive game for the Pacers. And oh my gosh, Johnny Furphy. Furphy mania is here until he cut his finger. Much to discuss from Pacers Magic. Final score, 94-90. If the Pacers give up 94 points, they should win. Stop. Full stop. No need to discuss the rest of the game. With this Pacers roster, the talent they've assembled and the way they've shown us that they can play for the last, really, since February of 2022, when this rebuild started, every time they give up 94, they should win, like comfortably win. And they lost, and they had to fight back furiously in the final 3 minutes to make that score look close. They were down much more than that in the final minute, or in the final minutes. They were winning to start the fourth quarter, gave it away, come back from the Magic complete. They never gave it back. After that, add that to the tally. 9 out of 11 games, Pacers have been winning in the fourth quarter. They are under 500 despite that stat. What actually happened here? I'm going to give you a number to tell you what happened here. 16 out of 30. That is the Pacers' rank in offensive rating this season. The identity is gone. That was what this team was. On a night like this, where they're playing the Orlando Magic. I just already made this point. I'm going to make it in much more grand detail now. They're playing the Orlando Magic without Paolo Banchero. Franz Wagner, who actually played very well against the Pacers last week, goes 9 for 24. 29 points on 24 shots. Great. Jalen Suggs goes 2 for 15. The Magic shoot 40% from the field with 17 turnovers. That's more than the Pacers. The Pacers should waltz through that game. They should stroll out of the arena with their first comfortable win of the season. Yes, they beat the Knicks by double digits. They were not even winning until the fourth quarter of that game. They have yet to have a wire-to-wire game where they're winning the whole time, or just a comfortable, cozy 20-point, easy-peasy dub. Hasn't happened yet. This should have been a night it happened. We will talk about their defense later. It was good. They defended well. They should waltz through a game like this. Instead, the below-average Indiana Pacers offense right now couldn't score more than 90 points. The Magic's defense is good. The 83 in Charlotte was worse than this from an offensive perspective. But this one was their lowest field goal percentage in a game this season at 38. They were crap at the rim. In the end, hopefully, my tab's refreshing. Awesome. In the end, from 0 to 4 feet, they finished 12 for 23. The Magic shot 71.4% at the rim. They had 3 more makes on fewer attempts than the Pacers. If the Pacers shot the Magic's percentage at the rim this game, they win. But thankfully, the Pacers were great in the paint, right? Wrong. 4 to 14 feet. Pacers 4 for 22. They killed any chance they had of winning with their finishing in the paint. The Magic have size. I get it. I really do. But the Pacers' decision-making sunk them on drives this game. That is why they lost this game. This team's offense has shown high levels. Dallas, New York, Boston. Really what many consider good teams, although Dallas's record is not there. But, that's what Rick Carlisle said after this game that really stood out to me. He said, our recognition was poor a lot of the night. We drove into crowds and drove into shot blockers, right? And that totally happened. The Magic finished this game with 10 blocks. And Jonathan Isaac had 3. That was their leader. No one player made all that happen. So the Pacers won the turnover battle 17-16, But Carlisle almost viewed some of those blocks as turnovers, like just kind of getting into a spot where the defense can get their hands on the ball. I understand that. I get that it's easier for teams to offensive rebound blocks. Sometimes they go out of bounds, whatever. But I get what he's saying when he brings it up in this way, when they're just walking into crowds. Like Ben Mathurin, he came alive late. His game ended up being a positive, but he just followed up his best game ever with a lot of drives where he would get into the paint with no plan, and he wouldn't pass out the simple pass as quickly as he has been, or he made a poor decision to shoot at times. Again, he came live late. I'm not here to criticize him, but that is what happened a lot in this game. That happened to Haliburton all the time. He would get to the foul line and either rush a pass out that was a turnover. He had a couple of those in the fourth quarter where the Magic shrunk the court and he threw it away. He had 4 turnovers. Mathurin also had 4. Even Siakam had a few of those floor shrinking turnovers in this game. So yes, the Pacers won the turnover battle, but the Magic's size and their crowding of the paint really, really made it hard for the Pacers to finish. They had all these blocks. They were just terrible driving into crowds. Very unusual for them to be that poor. They do have some guys who have a problem with that. They also just didn't shoot well. The Magic gave them a zone. Again, they struggled at first, but then I thought did better than last time in terms of, once they got through the stretch with too many turnovers and misses, they got good looks. They moved it well. The Magic zone wasn't the reason the Pacers couldn't score in this game. The reason the Pacers couldn't score in this game is they couldn't finish at the rim, and they couldn't punish the zone by shooting. 10 for 30 from deep. Siakam, wonderful shooting game. Myles Turner, Ben Shepherd, acceptable. Everybody else stunk. Everybody else stunk from deep. In fact, everybody besides the 3 players I just said made 3 total threes on 17 attempts. They needed Toppin to make 1, or Haliburton to make more, or Mathurin to make more. None of those guys made enough. So a lot of little problems on offense stacked up to a big problem. Right? They looked great early. Tyrese Haliburton had 8 assists in the first quarter. Mathurin had this burst to the rim. Turner hit a couple threes. The bench came in and was acceptable to good on offense, and they were getting stops. They could play in transition. Their first quarter offense looked great. They never recovered from that. Even though in the third quarter they scored as many points as the first quarter, it took them so much more effort to do it, and the bench had to play really different, and it just never felt as easy or the same, and they never got back to it. And so the number that it is 16th. This team is not good enough on offense to win a game like this right now. And that says everything about why the Pacers are 5-6. They don't have their identity right now. And a lot of that comes back to one guy. It's Tyrese Haliburton. He was so much of their identity last year. They just scored 130-something in his best game of the season by far. Tonight, 9 points on 14 shots. That's not good enough. It's not even close to good enough, right? And you always hear me do the thing. I know some of you roll your eyes at this at some point, but it's important. It's a distinction in his game and his approach to the game. Sometimes he has bad nights from 3, and he still has a great game because of his passing and his finishing on 2s. Tonight, 2 for 8 from deep, and the 2 are in quick succession. Okay, but maybe he went crazy on 2s, right? No, 1 for 6. Add him to the long list of players who struggled in the paint against the Magic size. He couldn't finish in there. 3 for 14. Just won't work. 11 assists is great. 8 of them in the first quarter when the Pacers looked like they were going to run away with the game. That's great. The Pacers won Haliburton's minutes. He played 39.5 minutes, and the Pacers won by 5. That means in the 8.5 minutes he was off, they lost by 9, right? In some ways, it wasn't on him. The bench stunk. We'll get to that in a minute. But Haliburton, if he is even okay in this game, 5 for 14, they probably win, right? It's just he was everything for them last year. And I wrote in my story in Forbes before the Knicks game, they need him to get back on track to be themselves as a team. And then he was awesome, and they looked like themselves, and they got their first double-digit win. And I don't mean that to pat myself on the back. I just think that so much of what they were last year was him being the identity. And even when he wasn't as good, he set an identity that worked for everybody else. When he isn't setting an identity, they just aren't playing as fast, right? I could talk about 16th on offense all I want. They're not as high in pace either. They're 15th in pace, barely above league average, right? It's just all different in a way that is not effective for them on offense. So a night where they should have won with ease. They made poor decisions in the lane. They could never play with their zip. And I get it. They're playing against the Magic, a tough opponent for them. Even without Paolo, they have great defenders. If you go back, Cammie and I did a podcast before the season, putting Eastern Conference teams into tiers on how they'd match up with the Pacers. I put favorite against the Pacers. I put the Magic in there, right? That's not to say this is an acceptable loss for the Pacers. Paolo's out. It's not. They should win this game. They didn't. They have to find a way to have a much higher offensive floor every night. They defended well tonight. They got contributions from a rookie who hasn't contributed all year. Pascal Siakam was awesome Awesome. Again, Mathurin came alive late. That should be enough given their opponent, and it wasn't. 5-6 go the Pacers. Where is this offense? Some other stuff went wrong in this game. The list does not end there. So much more to discuss. And some positives. Johnny Furphy. Welcome to the NBA, Johnny Furphy. I feel bad that he's getting buried at the end. He would have been the whole second segment if this was a win. It was not. Thus, we must continue on the struggles for the Pacers and Pacers Magic before we get to any of that, though. Need to talk to you guys about the great folks over at Game Time, the best way to get tickets to the comedy, theater, sports, whatever events you're going to near you, because they have a new feature called Game Time Picks. Makes getting those tickets even easier to watch whatever you're going to live. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste your time searching through thousands of tickets. But let me tell you, if you do want to search through thousands of tickets to find exactly what you want, Game Time is the best way to do it. When I used Game Time to get tickets to watch the New York Liberty play the Dallas Wings in the Barclays Center, spot on. I loved the seat view feature. I loved the toggling off hidden fees feature, so I knew exactly what I was playing. It was exactly right. I loved the knowledge that their super deals and curated deals and their lowest price guarantee made me know I was getting a good deal. They have event cancellation protection and job loss protection. So many features that make it so you know what you're getting, you know how much you're paying, and you know you're getting a good deal. Why would you shop somewhere else? Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. What time is it? Game time. We're back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day. Our second listen should be Locked On Magic. 4 in a row for Orlando, who has not lost at home yet this year. Philip Rossman-Reich with more on the somehow stable, and I think third in the East now, Orlando Magic, despite missing their star player. They just keep finding ways, man. That team gets a ball handler who can score. They're going to be disgustingly good. Not Ben Carroll, like a guard. They're going to be so good. They're already pretty good. And yet the Pacers should have steamrolled them tonight. The Pacers played good defense. I want to talk about that later. Johnny Furphy was exciting. So much more from the Pacers in this game that was kind of gross, right? I noted very early how poor the Pacers' decision-making was in the lane. And I understand Mathurin specifically a little bit trying to force it because he just scored 38 and had the best game of his life. Like, go out, see what you got. Can you do it again? And his start was really good. I felt like he made some poor decisions in the lane today. 0 assists, 4 turnovers speaks to that. And I don't want to feel like I'm picking on him. I think he's just the guy emblematic of that, what I just described for the Pacers and their poor decision-making in the lane. If you pull up their shot chart for this game, you can really see how much red there is around the basket for this Pacers team. They just could not finish around the basket. And some of it was decision-making, trying to score over guys that are tough to score over, are shooting when they shouldn't shoot in transition. Jarris Walker comes to mind on a play where I think he got injured. His hand might have when he was racing up the floor in transition and really delayed his attack and then took a lefty layup and missed it. And there was a 3-on-2, I think. Like that kind of stuff, they just need those points. They need those possessions to end with points. And it didn't happen. A lot of poor decision-making at the rim for the Pacers in this game. And turnovers against the zone were crucial in turning this game around in the second quarter. Right, the Pacers were up big-ish after a strong close to the first, and then the Magic went zone, and the Pacers were just tossing into passing lanes over and over. And I don't know if it quite got to double digits. I think they're up 9. It might have gotten to 10 or 11 at one point. I thought they had a good chance then, and the Magic very quickly erased that and nearly knotted the game up in the middle of the second quarter. And sure, the Pacers were ahead at halftime, but how poorly the second quarter went was certainly a sign of things to come. And it's just crazy how much of that Magic zone and really Jet Howard, a couple threes with Johnny Furphy chasing around, kind of changed the game. Because when they went huge, they had Suggs, Caldwell Pope, Jonathan Isaac, Goga Batadze, and Franz Wagner out there. The game got chippy, and that huge lineup really jammed things up for the Pacers. Like, it got chippy enough that like Carlisle was like on the other end of the floor, under the other basket. That was their big problem. So just a lot of weird, like that lineup was too tough for the Pacers. Some junky defensive stuff in that stretch. And their ugly start to the fourth was their doom. So lots of ugly things for the Pacers in this game. Shooting poorly, bad decision-making. Took them 4.5 minutes to score to start the fourth quarter. That was all terrible. And here is where, again, the Pacers have to figure something out. Rebounding. My Lord. I mean, it didn't feel as bad in this game when I was watching it. And then I looked at the numbers at one point and I thought, what on earth? 51-41, the final on the glass. Defensive rebounds were close to even, which makes sense because the Pacers missed more shots, that the Magic had a few more, but the offensive rebounds were all Magic. Goga with 6, Tristan da Silva with 4. There are some games, I think, and I know people roll their eyes at this. I will bring a stat to you while I'd say it. There are some games I think people are too hard on Myles Turner because he boxes out of center and then his teammates don't get a rebound that they can. In this game, a lot of it was him. He had 2 rebounds. That's fewer than Ben Shepherd. That was fewer than TJ McConnell by a lot. That was fewer than Toppin, Jarris Walker, the same as Furphy. Terrible night on the glass for Turner, who had been getting better in that way since being challenged in Dallas by the coaching staff. 6 offensive rebounds for Goga, a big part of that, right? So the stat I would bring up is, and I will cite this a lot, I think Turner is good at clearing out his man sometimes. The Pacers' defensive rebound percentage on any missed shot with Turner on the floor is 67.7%. With him off the floor, it's 68.3%. So it's a 0.06% difference. It's impossibly small, irrelevant, right? Basically the same if he's on or off. Their ability to get misses. So normally I think, yes, there are obviously times I can watch where he is not getting rebounds he could or should maybe, but there are a lot of times people give him crap for his raw number, that it's inaccurate. Tonight is absolutely not one of those cases. Tonight he was not good enough at all on the glass. Ben Mathurin was. Siakam was. TJ McConnell, really was. He had a crucial offensive rebound too. There were guys up for it. Not everybody was, and the Pacers needed to be better on the glass in this game. Remarkably, it didn't totally. I think the reason I didn't feel it for a long time is the second chance points, the Pacers won it 12-5. The Magic were getting these extra chances and weren't really converting them. But just over the course of a game, the extra chances add up, and the extra trips to the foul line that don't really count for second chance points matter. And just the way it wears down a team, it just eventually it becomes, oh my gosh, again, and it just bleeds into everything. You've got to finish possessions. Have to finish possessions. So the Magic only took one more shot. I don't necessarily think that was a huge factor, but certainly a factor in this game, how rough the Pacers were. At the first time I took rebounding as a note, it was the third quarter. Myles Turner had 1. There's a number where I'm like, yeah, okay, I get it, given what he does. I think that number's 4, 5, 6 at that point. 1 is well below it, right? And then him and Haliburton combined for another rough night shooting. They were combined 7 for 25, right? Just not enough there. So that's a couple things that stood out as poor in this game. The other thing I would go to is, and I get that injuries have changed the Pacers rotation in the interim, but the last time the Pacers just beat this Magic team, and they only won by 7, but still, their bench was phenomenal, right? Jarris Walker, game of his life, didn't miss. TJ McConnell didn't miss. I think Toppin and Shepherd were both 2 for 3 because the bench was 18 for 20. And it was this night that everybody talked about this stat. That was the best shooting percentage by a bench group that took at least 20 shots in a game. They were all awesome in that game. The Pacers just needed one guy on the bench to have a good night or an efficient night, and they might have won this game. And they kind of got it from Furphy. Again, we'll get to him. Jarris Walker, I think, played a good game, to be clear. He defended well. He stays down. He was 2 for 5, but he had 4 steals, 2 assists, 5 boards. I think Jarris played a fine game, but 2 for 5. Enrique Freeman played 2 minutes, missed his only shot. Obi Toppin 1 for 4. All 3 of his misses were threes. And very uncharacteristic, TJ McConnell, 2 for 9. Very rare that happens to him. If he's 4 for 9, which is still below his shooting percentage, they tied this game at worst, right? The bench, typically reliable and a huge swing factor, the last time these teams played wasn't there at all. And there were some, let's say, lineup challenges with the players available, right? Freeman only playing 2 minutes early, and then that couldn't work. They didn't play Quentin Jackson in this game. Furphy cuts his hand early in the fourth quarter. He had to come out, and they went to the starters much earlier than normal because they needed to make a comeback, and that kind of worked, but not really. 9 minutes left when the starters came back in. 39 minutes for Tyrese Haliburton on a game on November 14th, right? That's just the reality. 38-45 for Pascal Siakam. So some odd rotations in this game, but they had to do some of it, and some of it was that the bench just wasn't good enough, and some of it's that they're hurt, but they needed anyone on the bench to be good in this game. They didn't get it. Ben Shepherd was the Franz Wagner matchup. I thought that went I think he defended him fine personally, but in general, Wagner got 24 shots and made 3 threes, but they slowed him down enough. They played the Magic to an even draw in Franz Wagner's minutes. That is the end of my notes on things that are not obvious positives from this game. Johnny Furphy. All right. Look at that. There he goes. Pascal Siakam is amazing once again, and I mean it. That was probably the Pacers' best defensive game of the year. No one wants to hear it because they lost. But I swear to you, there were some positives from this game. The 5 and 6 Pacers deserve that. Let's talk about some of those things to close out today's Locked On Pacers. Before we get to any of it, though, want to talk to you guys about the great people over at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL season. Get in on the NBA action with FanDuel. They are America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers over on FanDuel can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. How about that? The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL and NBA all in one place. When you get that hunch in the middle of a game, happens to everybody at some point, you can go check out the live play-by-play for the action so you can see exactly what is going on right now. You can check out the latest stats to see who's playing well and at what times, and so much more right on the same page. You can see all that, where you place your bets. So just visit FanDuel.com to join today and be informed when you act on your hunches. You'll get started with a $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That is on FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day, or second listen elsewhere in the NBA. Very interesting to me. The Bulls beat the Knicks. More drama late in a game. Whew. Check out Locked On Bulls. How did they do that? And Locked On Knicks, who just have had some strange results of late, beating the Sixers handily in the in-season tournament, or the NBA Cup, but losing to the Pacers and Bulls on other ends of that. Good stuff that happened in this game. Johnny Furphy would have been the headline of good stuff to talk about had the Pacers won this game. First points, that's always exciting. Had a dunk in transition, leaking out. Great pass, I believe, from McConnell to hit him up the floor for a dunk. His teammates went crazy. Ben Mathurin and him were seen joking on the bench, and I thought that might be it. Leaked out for a dunk. Good. How about another basket where he cleaned up a mess in the paint and got fouled and won a very important shot, hit the free throw. He had a steal, and he had a perfectly timed cut from the left corner for another basket. This is what they liked about him, right? Carlisle even said it after the game. Like, you can see why we're excited about him, he said of Johnny Furphy after the night, because his off-ball movement was something they really liked at Kansas. And you saw that with, a run out of transition, obviously, but the way he moved and someone else was shooting to get a rebound, the way he cut to get his, first points in the half court ever, like that all was impressive. And I don't think they can or should rely on him when they get Nesmith or Nembhard back, or, that even right now, he only played 9 minutes, right? They're already at pretty close to the end of what they can do rotationally. But if he can make half his shots and find ways to finish plays, he's got to work on his defense. He's thin still, sure, I get all that, but that's what they kind of hope they need from a guy in between. I mean, their bench right now is Walker, McConnell, Toppin, and whoever else they can sneak in there. If there's another guy out there who can give you some size and be efficient, that's great. So we'll see what this means in the immediate future. I don't know that they can or need to rely on him right now, but he looked effective in this game, certainly on offense. Jet Howard was not fun for him to cover. He had to chase him around, and Jet Howard got loose for some threes early in the second quarter that really flipped the momentum of this game straight on its head. Huge stretch for the Magic, because the other thing that happened in this game was the Pacers defended quite well. I mean it. I know I keep joking and saying that, but 94 allowed is impressive. And it wasn't, like I mentioned, the rebounding, that was killer, but their first shot defense was really quite good in this game. In the second half of the first quarter, right, the Magic only scored 2 points. They did not score at all for the final 4 minutes and some odd seconds of that game. The Magic's 94, 9 points fewer than anyone else has scored for the Pacers this season. The Pacers' 2 fewest points allowed games this year, they lost both of them. The Pacers' 2 highest points allowed games this year, they won both of them. This team is so confusing this year. The roller coaster is crazy. That doesn't make any sense. But either way, 94 is very impressive. They defended Tristan da Silva pretty well. They made Franz's life hard. Credit Ben Shepherd for that, although it wasn't perfect. It was good enough. They did great on Jalen Suggs. They did very well on Anthony Black, especially after he torched them before. Cole Anthony has been a non-factor all year. Like, they forced 17 turnovers. Mo Wagner had a bunch of those, even though he had some nice shots. They defended pretty well. Credit to the Pacers. I think this was their best defensive performance of the season in a lot of ways, right? The mid to late first quarter was pretty good. The late third quarter when they climbed back ahead for the first time, or for the last time, excuse me, was pretty good. Like, they got up double digits early in this game. I thought they were going to run away with it at that point because they were defending well and their offense was effective, and they defended worse for the rest of the game, and their offense was completely dreadful after that. But that kind of stuff really mattered. And so to show some, yes, I get it. It's the Ben Careless Magic. It's not a good offensive team, but they did real stuff on defense in this game, and it just wasn't quite there in general. Siakam, talked about him yesterday, did a whole segment on his all-star candidacy. I mean, honestly, I talked about him as an individual and his stats and what could or could not happen for him to be an all-star. What if the thing that holds him back is the Pacers record? I mean, 25 for Siakam. He made 4 threes again. And that, I don't know if it's new or if he'll sustain it forever, but he's been a good shooter this year. Made his foul shots. 25 points on 11 shots for a star player who played almost 39 minutes. And they lost. His turnovers were rough. 2 assists, 7 rebounds. Good defense from everybody, including him. Siakam was tremendous again. It's crazy how good he's been this year. And in a game like this, it's remarkable that they can't win. It feels like they can't find him enough. Like, I get why. On a team with lots of guards, it might be hard to end up getting him the ball at times, but they need to find a way. They just absolutely need to find a way. When he has a night like that, it happened in Charlotte too, where in the second half, it felt like, man, Siakam's cooking. They've got to find a way to get him the ball. Perhaps it should have been an augur of tougher things to come, but I felt like early in the game when the Pacers were getting their big lead, they were making some tough twos, and they did not end up finishing well for the rest of the game at all. I think that could have been a sign that, hey, the shots they're making are tough. Like, it might actually be tough for them to make this happen. Look, I get that Haliburton did not play a good game. He was brilliant in the first quarter, 8 assists in that quarter alone. The Pacers offense looked really good. It was humming, it was moving, and Haliburton was a big part of that. And Siakam, another big stretch he had was when the game got chippy, he really stabilized things. They had an important challenge from Rick Carlisle that led to some momentum that got Turner a nice block. Mathurin was strong early. Myles Turner hit a 3 early. A lot of stuff in my notes that just like, man, that could have been important. Man, that was a big play. That was a good sequence. And then the Pacers end up losing on their lowest total allowed of the season. Their first time allowing less than 100 this year. Doesn't matter. They still lost. Like, that is remarkable given what we saw from the Pacers last year. Just insane. Last year, when they gave up less than 111. In fact, let's go a number higher. When they gave up less than 113, they lost 3 times total. When they gave up less than 108, they went 7-0. They just gave up 94, which would have been their second fewest of the season last year, and lost the game. I mean, it's truly unbelievable. So yes, you can nitpick this thing, and I just did all that. And you can nitpick that thing, and you can talk about this stretch and that stretch. Their offense is fundamentally not what it was. And until it is closer to it, if they can get to 10th in offense, if they were 10th in offense right now, they'd be 7-4, right? They've been ahead so much in these fourth quarters. They have found ways with their depth, with occasionally good enough defense, with someone stepping up to be in basically every game this season. Charlotte, notwithstanding, although they were winning in the third quarter by quite a bit in that game. In New York, where they couldn't make a 3. Okay, that's fine. They've been in every other game. The margins between what they are and what they could be is not very big, but they keep not having an identity this year, and that is killing them. They've got to score. They've got to find a way to get Haliburton going. They kind of didn't against New York. They did not at all at this one. 2 against the Heat at home coming up, and then their schedule really eases up. We'll talk about that when the time is relevant. We'll talk about it a lot when the time is relevant. Speaking of the Heat and the NBA Cup, starting on Friday for the Pacers, Wes Goldberg from Locked On Heat and my partner on Tuesdays on Locked On NBA is going to join us tomorrow to talk Heat Pacers since they played twice in a row. We can also talk about what we do and don't like about the in-season tournament. So that will be extremely fun. Hope you guys can stick around for that. I enjoy those crossovers when they are applicable. I hope you guys enjoy that more than you enjoyed this Pacers Magic game, which just did not look very pretty for the Pacers. They're back Friday. We're back tomorrow talking more Pacers. Thank you all for listening. You can find me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Tony R. East. This podcast is on Twitter at Locked On Pacers. Thank you all for listening. Have a wonderful rest of your day. We will see you very soon.